Hello, welcome to the Venus Project UK Supporters Show. This is Show 8. I am Tom Hockney, and today we don't have Aidan Fry with us, but instead we have two guests, and they are over to you
Mick
guys.
Petinger Mick Petinger from South Yorkshire. Been here a while.
I'm Troy Slater, and I'm living in Gateshead in the northeast right now. Hello, everyone.
Cool, yeah. And today we're going to be listening to about 10 to 12 minutes of an excerpt of a Terrance Mckenna and a talk he did. And he does quite a lot of social commentary, and he's really interested in psychedelics. He talks a lot about DMT. And I think it's really relevant. It's pretty cool. It starts off really well. So, yeah, we're going to sit down now.
The problem with determinism is it says everything can't happen anyway except the way that it's happening. Now, the problem with that is that it makes the concept of thinking irrelevant. Because you're thinking what you're thinking because you couldn't think anything else. Therefore, the notion of truth or judgment or all of that is completely shot down. So a totally determined universe is the most ultimately uninteresting that there can be. Nevertheless, the universe clearly is, to some degree, highly determined. I mean, we know to within nanoseconds the time of the sunrise tomorrow, and unless there's a serious instability, it will be on time. So there is a degree of predictability. My rap is sort of divided into two parts, and I'm very shy about the second half. The first half is easy for me. It's that psychedelics are wonderful, you should take them, this is the way to save the world, so forth and so on. The second part of the rap is, here's what I've learned from psychedelics, and then not some general kind of feel-good thing, but something that requires a blackboard and tensor equations of the third degree and so forth and so on. And I'm very shy about putting that out. My personal approach to psychedelics before I realized that you could save the world with them, when I just thought that this was some kind of thing, self-exploration, my notion was what it's good for is ideas. It's for generating ideas. And I don't really like the word generating, because you don't generate them, you hunt them. You get in your little boat and you paddle out onto the dark water, and then, you put your feet up and you wait, and you set your nets, and you wait, and, sometimes you pull up your nets and something the size of a freight train has gone through them, and you just row for shore, shitting white. And sometimes, minnows, trivia. Why does our little finger just fit our nostril? And, the mysteries of the animal body, or all kinds of stuff. But occasionally, and it's worth fishing a lifetime, occasionally something will come into the nets that is not so small as to be trivial and not so large as to be incomprehensible, and this thing can be wrestled with for hours and eventually brought home to show the startled folks back on shore. And this showing the startled folks back on shore makes history. All these ideas come out of interaction with these plants. The number of ideas, which when you pick up a straight encyclopedia, should be traced back to herders and people who kept animals. People say, astrology, astronomy, it was invented by people watching their flocks. The calendar, time, was invented by people watching their flocks. All this other, well, they weren't only watching their flocks, they were also watching the cow pies of their flocks for mushrooms. And, music, all of these Pythagorean insights into order, I think, come out of this herding, domesticated animal husbandry, we call it husbandry, because it's a model of caring for nature. And these ideas are the inspiration and the purpose, to my mind. I mean, the social purpose, because I can, get rid of my stuff and feel better about how I was abused in childhood and this and that and the other thing with psychedelics. But that's all personal growth stuff. But an idea, can be shared. You can take it and you can lay it at somebody's feet. And where do they come from? When you ask the question, where do the ideas come from? This is Platonic Philosophy 101, ladies and gentlemen. This is why the Greeks gave up fishing, to discuss this problem. Where do the ideas come from? And we are no closer to understanding that. And yet the ideas are the signposts of our destiny. They guide us forward, and yet we know not from whence nor whither. Well, I think now, so Plato's take on that was, he said, well, there must be a perfect world somewhere where all these things exist in some, and the numbers and everything, there's a perfect form for everything in a higher dimensional world called the archetypes. Well, 2,000 years of philosophical sophistication have shown certain problems with that point of view, but fewer than you might think. I mean, the mystery of form, the problem of form, what is it? Where does it come from? What sustains it? We are nothing more than form. If it weren't for form, we would be no different than the dirt under our feet. And form intrudes into matter, and then it withdraws. And when it withdraws, they put you in a hole and put dirt on top of you. So it's very important to understand, what is this coming and going of form? If we take this pillow and saw it in two, it's a pretty undramatic event. If we take one of us and saw us in two, it's an extremely dramatic event. And what is the difference there? It's that this object is three-dimensional, and this object is four-dimensional. This object has a quality about it called being alive. Being alive, also technically known as metabolism, means that material is moving along temporal gradients within the confines of this organism. Material is not moving along any gradients within this thing. It's just where it is. There it sits. But in here, a form is being maintained from within. And if I were to die, the form would collapse. Here, no form is being maintained except the form imposed. This is an imposed form. It has no sense of itself, and it doesn't sustain itself from any kind of internal integrity. But higher dimensional objects, like animals and plants and human beings, have this quality. Well, so then what we've been talking about here, albeit sloppily, is the fact that we seem to occupy a higher dimension in the natural order than other things. And this higher dimension has to do with the fact that we have a little piece of mind, a little chunk of this higher order organization. Well then, going toward that, as visionaries, as users of psychedelics, society keeps adjusting its trim tabs, as it were, to mirror this transcendental goal. And this is what we want to become. We want to become like the sensed object in our imagination. And shamanism is a pipeline about this. It's almost as though the end state, well, here's a model for it. It's almost as though the ordinary causal flow of information from the past to the future must make a place for like a 3 to 5% backward flow. And this is what we call intuition. It's that vague, unformed knowing that comes without any baggage of causal mechanism, but it's true knowledge. You know how it's going to be. Well, it may be that that time is somehow information permeable, that future potential states of existence are actually somehow in resonance with states of existence in the present and in the past. Our models of how the world works are very, very simple. I mean, basically, we operate with mechanical push-pull models that are appropriate to very simple mechanical systems. And yet we know that we are far more complex even than the most complex physical systems. This last 15,000 years has been something. And the last 500 years has really been something. It's so close now, the transcendental object, that it informs everything. The metaphor, the model to hold on in your mind as you gaze at the earth in its travail is the metaphor of birth, not death. That a gestation process of 20,000 years is coming to an end. Culture using, language using, minded creatures are coming to some kind of fermentative climax. And we cannot extrapolate the human career on this planet centuries into the future. It ain't going to be like that. It's an absurd question to ask the question, what will the world be like in 500 years? What the world will be like in 500 years is unimaginable, because in the next 40 years, we are going to pass through this quantized transition where we actually become insiders and players in the game. History is a state of becoming. It's a state of moving from the inarticulate, unreflecting, animal style of organization to the self-reflecting, minded, conscious, energy-controlling style. But to get from one to the other takes about 20,000 years, and it's a bitch. You don't know where you are. You don't know up from down. You cannot tell what is happening. There's just migrations and warfare and pogroms and gene mixing and hysteria of every sort and Messiah this and religion that, and they're slaughtering these people and these people are doing that. And it's like a bad dream. It's like a psychedelic trip is what it's like. It's a 15 to 25,000 year dash to authentic being from the animal body. And it would have been a lot easier to understand if 10,000 years ago we hadn't cut the telephone wire to nature. Because from then on we haven't been able to figure out what's going on. And it's been left to men with large egos to figure out what was going on. And what they figured out was going on was that there was a lot of free women, land, animals, and money that needed to be organized for their pleasure, because they lost the connection to this planetary birth process. Now, and like a birth process, I mean, the metaphor is worth pursuing, because a birth is violent, blood is shed, there's moaning and groaning and thrashing around, and yet this is not an automobile accident. This is not a human tragedy. This is how life works. This is centrally scripted in to how human beings operate. If this didn't happen, we wouldn't be here. Well, and yet, if you've ever been pregnant or been around a pregnant person, this is a wonderful state of equilibrium, of self-satisfaction, of completion, and yet the very fact that it exists ensures that it's going to be rent, it's going to be torn, it's going to end violently in separation of these two beings. But then there are all kinds of births. There's stillbirth, the most disturbing and unsettling of all. There's, breach. there's cesarean, there's bad presentation, there's easy labors, hard labors. And I think this is the choice that we still have some choices left. And a choice still to be made is it going to be a hard labor or an easy labor? It's how fast we educate ourselves. That's the lubrication in the birth canal of this pup. How fast we educate ourselves. Are we going to fight it, or are we going to go with it?
So yeah, he says in psychedelics can change the world, and it's a pretty bold statement straight off the bat. Maybe to some people, but I
don't think it's necessarily that psychedelics themselves could change the world, but I think a certain amount of people who have tried psychedelics and have achieved a certain sense. I mean, what I would like to believe is that, I mean, this could be a complete fantasy, but I would like to think that it'd be possible to achieve those states of awareness purely by ourselves without having to use any intake into the body with any drugs or anything.
Yeah.
But
I've always thought that maybe that's how Buddhists do it. You know what I mean? They're always talking about connecting with spirits and stuff. Maybe they've meditated for long enough to work out how to release their own DMT. I don't know if that's possible.
Could be. I mean, the thing is another thing that I've noticed some people, like, you notice people criticizing drug takers, are saying, oh yeah, well, you take drugs and you see all this fancy stuff and it's all just in your mind and that, but it's usually about people who haven't had these experiences, and I don't think they could speculate, but it's really like, I don't think that it's relevant for them to comment on something that they haven't experienced. Does that make any sense? I mean, yeah, it can be discussed, but I don't think that somebody could really criticize or take something to pieces if they don't understand what they've experienced. Does that make any sense? Or if they haven't experienced it?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Uninformed opinion,
yeah, this is right. So what were we saying, Tom?
I think a lot of people, when they say that, they're just reflecting the culture and just reflecting what they've heard, and they're reinforcing their own values. So they may be against drugs, and they're just saying it for that purpose. It's not like it's not three-dimensional thinking. It's just copy-paste, basically.
Oh, this is it. I remember the words of Bill Hicks when he was talking. I mean, I'm sure you've all seen the Bill Hicks' show, and he's talking about why is there never any positive drug stories on the news? Why is it always a young man jumps out of a window, thinks he flies and jumps out of a window, and all this nonsense? And he's like, yeah, the world's got a bit lighter. We've lost another idiot. Well, I'm kind of on that sort of side of it. I mean, also, like, not all drugs are good. I mean, some are very addictive. I mean, even stuff like psilocybin can be so good. I mean, I've talked from personal experience. The experiences I've had during psilocybin have made it quite difficult to be in the real world afterwards, because you can never get to I've never been able to reach that level of euphoria or connectedness or happiness even, So I think that could be a danger, as in that you're always looking. Well, I personally spend on my days like hoping to reach that state of elation again. So I don't know if that's a danger or if that's an incentive to reach a state of consciousness purely with a straight head on, and by, I don't know, like doing sports or using my creative energies to, or like, playing gigs, trying to find that, going snowboarding, whatever, or meditating, even to reach a state of contentedness, of happiness that I've experienced on certain drugs, which I've never been able to recreate. So I don't know whether it is a good thing, or personally I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be negatives, but I mean, you can get addicted to anything.
This is true, yeah. And I found, like, after a certain high level experience that I always wanted to recreate. I wanted to find that place again, and I could never I could never make it happen again, which would lead to. And I think the key was it was almost like the experience was telling me that there was no need to try to find that place again through the use of drugs, but to find it in different methods. It's almost like I'm going to sound really new age spiritual here, and I don't want to. In fact, I'll let you guys talk for a bit because I've got a few views on it. And go on, Mick, what you're saying, mate?
I can connect to that because, like, I'll show you my video for the DMT experience that I did because one of my friends recorded it. So I'll send you that after. But when I did it, it was as if, like, because I say at the end of that video, like, the universe showed me what, like, all these, like a massive puzzle. But like afterwards, I was thinking I wouldn't have normally said that unless I'd have had that drug. So like I think it's my own brain. Like until I've just come off it, and then I'm thinking maybe it was the universe, maybe it wasn't. But like it kind of showed me something so complex that there was no understanding it. It was just kind of saying, look, this is what you're trying to understand, and you're never going to understand it. So stop trying so hard to control everything or understand everything. Just do what you can, sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, man, it's cool.
I think it would be foolish to have an experience like that and then not be open with yourself and not try and describe it as accurate as possible, and to be constantly thinking, well, you know, what I know of science today disagrees with that. But obviously, science, like our scientific knowledge, is constantly evolving, and what we knew 50 years ago, we know now to be complete, like, bullshit.
Excellent, mate. Tom, that is, yeah. I mean, like, if I can just follow up on that point, about like, sometimes when I think about science, and I'm very, very into science. I love physics. I love like reading about quantum. I love, you know, I'd rather be, you know, put the scientists in charge than, I don't know, the Vatican, for instance, because I don't like, I don't I don't sort of going for the old kind of Judeo-Christian kind of religions or whatever. Anyways, sometimes when I think about science and I think about the scientific method, which, you know, brings results. Now, firstly, as you said yourself, Tom, about science keeps evolving, and we don't know like what we think is concrete evidence and fact. Suddenly, 50 years later, it all kind of changes, and we stick with some things, but then we learn other new things. Now, when I think about the places that your mind can reach during psychedelic trips or whatever, I liken it to possibly like a television or a painting, the act of painting. Like with the television, the science to the television is the wires and the electricity and everything that makes up that television. But the important part is what you see on the screen, which is intangible, because you see something on the screen that, I mean, you don't know how it's got there. It's been beamed across the sky, whatever, in some invisible format that you don't understand. Some people have figured out how to put it together. But the important fact is, it's what you see, it's the experience. That's what you gain from it. If you're watching a film or you listen to music, these emotions, again, you can go into science and say that, well, it's these chemicals, you know, you have all this stuff goes on in your brain that creates this experience that you consider it's emotion, and that's all it is. That's all it is. Well, maybe it is, but the way I see it is, that's the important, that's the thing on the surface, that's the intangible thing, that's the thing that you can't explain. Maybe that's another aspect of science. Maybe in this universe we have a set of rules, we have a set of equations and building blocks that we know that we can build a Lego castle. If we put these things together, that's how it works. But outside of that, what's outside of that? You know, when I think about science, sometimes we're looking so intensely as small as possible, or we're looking as far away as possible, and it just seems that, like, well, once we get to the end of this universe, we can find the edge of this universe, it's just going to be another universe. And then what's also, right, so there's a multiverse, so what's at the end of the multiverse? Well, oh, it's another multiverse, and I'm like, and it just carries on and on and on. And it's the same when you look into the nano world, or really things just get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And I think sometimes it's a case of, and there's somebody else, a famous person, said something, I can't remember the quote, but sometimes it feels like it's almost like we can't see the wood for the trees. And then somebody quoted something like, when people start looking inwardly for the answers rather than outwardly, then we'd be a lot further on than we are now. And if you think about these shamanistic ideals or being in touch with nature and all these kind of things, and yeah, science has given us building blocks, and we were able to create these things. But a lot of the things now that we talk about and our want for an RBE, etc., we're very much still in touch with those ancient ideas, which is, be one with nature. I mean, thousands of years ago, people were saying, or like, nature is a cycle. It's just, you're born, you die, you go back to the dust. We are star stuff. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's my view on it anyway. And
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't think that science and like New Age spirituality or whatever you want to call it should be separate entities. I think there's a lot that science needs to research and isn't doing so because these drugs are illegal, and that's pretty much the main reason. It's the stigma of it. So if I'm like a researcher and I study the effects of DMT, there's a lot of stigma that could ruin my career. I could even get locked up or things like that. And also, I have personally, I distinguish spirituality and religion like they're completely different things in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like, it's almost, I don't know if it's of science this way. I suppose it is of science, because when sometimes when I hear sort of spiritual people going on about stuff, it makes me shake my head and go, oh no, no, man, I don't want to hear it. But then sometimes the like people from an atheistic point of view kind of don't this what am I trying to say here? This almost like they wipe the slate clean, that it stops there. If it's not provable, or if it hasn't already been proven, then it can't be possible, and there's a shut off point there. So I'm kind of sitting on, sometimes I feel like I'm sitting on the fence on this subject, but I don't know if it's sitting on the fence or an all over kind of theory of how both sort of trains of thought work together. I think that's what you're trying to say, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's proven that it's pretty much impossible to be certain of anything, like in this conscious state that we're in now. So to say to be certain that certain things cannot exist, certain spiritual things, that would be scientifically ignorant, kind of thing. So if someone's an atheist and they advocate scientific method of thinking and things like that, and say anything remotely spiritual is impossible because we don't have the evidence for it currently, well, that goes against
That's
the fact.
anti-scientific.
Yeah, that in itself, yeah.
Yeah.
I like what Einstein says, that like science without religion is lame, religion without science is blind, because like you say, science is good for testing things and making sure things work and proving things, but it doesn't deal with phenomena, which is like the religion side of things. And that's not to say in my mind, I don't think use guesswork to tell anybody to be a certain way. But like in a spiritual sense, like you say, we are all like stardust. We are from the same thing. And when we go back, like when we come from nothing, we're going to go back to nothing. So I don't know. Like it's just
I think the burning question in everybody's deep down inside of everybody, even I think even a lot of people who claim to be satisfied with the idea that that's it, your existence will end. I think I think this burning craving knowledge that we all want is whether we can continue forever, or whether we do exist as energy beyond our physical lives. I think I think that's maybe the defining sort of question of it all.
Or is there something after death?
Yeah, exactly. Is there an afterlife, or do we continue? Are we reborn? All this kind of thing.
Well,
with the DMT, like sorry, go on, Tom.
I was just going to say that I think one of the reasons that DMT is a Class A drug is that it's designed so that people won't discover the answer to that question. and then you answer to that
Yeah, I
question,
think you're
may
right
vary.
there, mate.
Yeah. Because that could possibly enlighten people and fulfill people and make people determined. And I think a man or a woman that's not afraid of death is a very powerful person indeed. And that's exactly not what the system wants. But yeah, go on, Mick.
Yeah, I think you're right there, mate. And I think if we sort of like talking about more about whether psychedelics need to be in society, I don't see. Well, I don't know. It's a difficult question because, like, you know, I've spoke to people about like taking drugs and all that, and while I wouldn't say to anybody, yeah, just whack up some heroin, go for it, man. You never know, you might like it. Like, I think it's again, I don't think people necessarily need to do it, but I think it's valid and it's important that some of us do it, and I'm very, very glad that I did do it, and it's something that I'm very, very glad that I've done it. I mean, I'm a creative person anyway, so like a cynical person might say, well, you know, you've got a crazy imagination already, like, you know, you've taken these drugs and you've just blah blah blah. But we were talking, you mentioned before about describing these experiences, and really, there's nothing in reality that like normal day-to-day life that really can describe it effectively. I mean, you can. I struggle to find. I mean, I struggle to find words that will adequately fit. Um, because time takes all your dimensions can take on different meaning. You suddenly realize that there's more than 4 dimensions. You know, things, time takes on a different meaning. You know, you feel genuinely connected to things, and it's always in different phases. It isn't the same every time. Like a trip can start one way and end a different way, but it sometimes it can feel like it's almost been created for you, like a game or a film or a little story. It almost feels like you are being carried, and I think that's why people sometimes call it the universe has created it for you, or the universe is controlling you, because you can feel. One of the ways I've felt on it is as if you're being carried, as if there's nothing to worry about, as if you feel safe, you feel that you're never going to end, you feel that everything's going to be fine. And you're right, if everybody felt this, there would be no more wars. There wouldn't be no more war. There would, like, they just, yeah, in fact, let's all get high, man.
I had a friend once say to me that like certain drugs, if used like responsibly, not overused or whatever, they can be like a key to unlocking the mind sort of thing, like things that we wouldn't experience if we didn't have those drugs. And like you say with DMT, when you peak on DMT, or when I peaked on DMT, the sense of like the peak part is undescribable. There's no words for it, but it's like all your perceptions are all rolled into one.
Yeah, man.
It's a fucking awesome experience.
Well, personally, I've only like smoked marijuana before, and I had positive experiences in that. That changed the way I saw things. It helped me develop. But then I had a lot of negative experiences on it, and I haven't done it in a couple of years. I've done it once since, and it was just the worst experience of my life.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Aside from,
sorry, Tom.
Because it's something you mentioned as well, the feeling of like having it created for you, and you know, the feeling of comfortability and stuff. I used to have dreams as a kid, and they were really distinctly different from the ones I have now, and I've remembered them for my entire life for some reason. And these were dreams that I'd go to this garden, I'd visit these elves, and they'd show me things, and basically there was this like big there was this guy that basically like looked after all the elves, and I'd go like talk to him and stuff, and it was really, really distinctly different, and I've remembered it all my life. And then when I heard Terrance Mckenna talk about DMT for the first time, he talked about visiting these elves, and the words he used to describe that were exactly the same. Well, putting the same images in my head as the ones that I used. And it was just like, I don't know, it's strange. A lot of the words he uses as well kind of feel familiar.
It's synchronicity, and I find it happens all the time, and and again, it's like something I can't. It's hard to explain. You were saying, Mick was saying there before about like how the abuse of drugs or using stuff unnecessarily, going over the top on drugs and all this kind of thing. Well, it kind of reminded me of um, when I was into doing psilocybin mushrooms. It kind of became like a ritual. They came out once a year. They came out in September, and it was like you'd go out, you maybe do one or two trips in a season or something, and you'd feel refreshed. You'd feel kind of like your system had been cleaned out, and you were ready to take the next step, and they're set up for the rest of the year. So if you can imagine, it was like, and when you're tripping and that, like you do like we're talking about characters and beings and elves and things. These things do happen, and then you connect with people and you realize that like they've had similar experiences, and you wonder why does that happen? What are these really like beings from another dimension, or is it something in our minds that is hardwired into all of us, that we have some sort of connection with, or some sort of memory, a collective memory of something from the past? Yeah.
I used to always get the feeling as well that I wondered why everyone didn't always have these dreams, or why everyone didn't always talk about them, or something like that every time I came out of it. And then Terrance Mckenna said something similar as well, and that was interesting.
Yeah, like you were saying about having these like really quite, would you say lucid dreams, or vivid dreams at least? Yeah.
Yeah. That was like
Sorry, mate, what did you say?
I was like 5 or 6 years old. It was a long time ago.
Right. Well, now to touch on that subject, it's not only via drugs that you can have these kind of experiences. I remember when I was maybe about 5, 6, 7 years old or whatever, and I was on holiday in Turkey, and I got a fever, a really, really intense fever, and I was really ill, and I had this insane experience. I was like tripping, and I was like, before I'd even knew that drugs existed or whatever, I had this insane experience where it was something that I could never have thought up or explained, but it was white and it was smooth. And when I was coming out of this kind of experience, I realized that I was staring into a net curtain, a white net curtain, and it was almost as if I'd experienced, I was the texture of the curtain, as if I was in this net curtain. And this is before I knew anything about drugs and that. So other things can alter your perception, alter the I don't know, maybe the chemicals in your brain. So you are in a state to be open for those sort of experiences, or do you know what I mean? So it's not just through drugs that these sort of things can happen.
I think lucid dreaming, I've tried it and got close to what I think was lucid dreaming, but I don't think it was actual lucid dreaming. I'm not sure, but it was fucking cool. Like, to be able to lucid dream, I think, is like the key to all this. Like when I take DMT, or I've tried LSD and that didn't work for me, and I've not tried psilocybin, so that's a good question for you, Troy. Is psilocybin like an emotional trip? Because DMT is not.
Man, it's yeah, it can be. It can be. It's so many different things, because I mean, like I'm drug free these days, but I mean, all my experiences were like my late teens and my early 20s and all that kind of thing. But if I had a chance to do DMT, I think I'd do it. Oh yeah. In fact, there's no question about it. I will do it.
It's really intense, but not emotional. But what I was going to say is, with DMT, there's no control. Whereas with like a lucid dream, you somehow, like I've been told, you can control it.
Yeah.
Being able to control that trip, that's fucking magic.
Yeah. Whether psilocybin is, I'll try and explain this. It seems to me that anything's possible on psilocybin. Because I remember I'd tried mushrooms before I tried MDMA, and there's so many different things that can happen and different feelings, and yes, you can get emotional in that, but the kind of rushes and the emotional feelings that you get from MDMA, I've had that on psilocybin. It's almost like to me, it always felt, it was always, I felt more important, like weed, like it's not, it's something that, I mean, I don't mind it and stuff, but I don't have like major experiences off it or anything like, I've nothing compared to what I've had from psilocybin, which seems to be able to recreate anything you want in a way. It's like that's when I've heard people talk about DMT, and I've always thought, oh man, it's been, like I'm a lot older now, but like if I ever got the chance, I'd give that a whirl again, because there was one trip that I've had on psilocybin that I've openly expressed it to people. If there's one day that I could relive, it's that magic mushroom trip, that one trip where it was unconditional love. I was one with everything. Everything had a purpose. It was just, and I can remember experiencing it, and that night just thinking to myself, I'm not gonna believe this in the morning. I'm gonna question this when it gets to the, because it was a bit kind of like the opposite of what you were saying, Mick, earlier about where it was the other way around. In the morning, you were like, while you're on it, you didn't know if it was right, but in the morning, is that right? Yeah, it's kind of the other way around.
Well, it's only like a 10-15 minute trip on, sometimes shorter than that on DMT. But like, I felt as though whilst I was on it, I couldn't say what I wanted to say, and I couldn't describe anything. Now, I don't know whether that was because the words weren't there to describe what I was seeing, or whether, like, because I'd taken DMT, it had dumbed down my vocabulary for a while.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
like, after I came out of it, and like the next day, I thought to myself, why did I use the word the universe was trying to show me, when I, I still think it was just my own brain, like somehow just going, look at your brain, or you know what I mean, look at this intricacy, you've got no
Yeah.
chance of understanding it. But like in each one, it always seemed like something was showing me what it was that was showing me, whether it was my brain or some entity, universe,
It's
I don't know. But I
it.
didn't see any like characters, you know what I mean? There were no people or aliens or anything like
I've had all of it, man.
that.
I've had all of it, man. I've had aliens. I've had like religious figures like angels and all that kind of thing. But I know it sounds whacked out when you say it, but like in it it's almost like the trip, it has a sense of humor. It did for me anyway. It seemed like here's a character. Like I had a friend who was like really this one trip I had this friend, and he was like really big guy, big bushy beard and that, and there was a couple of other guys, and he was like he was playing God, it was like he was God, and these other were like disciples or whatever, and they were kind of like elf-like or whatever, and but it wasn't like, yeah, that is God. It was almost, it was like a game. It was just like it was almost like fun. And to sum the whole subject up, and I can sum the whole subject up, as well as talk for infinity about it. For me, there's 2 points here. Now, the first one is that whatever the real meaning of it all is, whatever the truth of it all is, the one thing that we've got to that you cannot deny is that the brain is fucking totally and unbelievably powerful. It's just unbelievable. It's like virtual reality, man. It's like, it's things that you just cannot explain or experience. Like flying I became a black hole. It was almost like I could feel like I was sucking the universe in, feeling all powerful. Things like this. So whatever it is, whether there's a deeper meaning, or whether we can, which I believe there is, or we can use this, somehow train our brains and find out how to use this practically or whatever, which I believe that we can. At the very least, it just goes to say that the imagination and the mind is very, very powerful, and possibly the most powerful thing in the universe. And the other thing, the even simpler thing, which I've come out of it with, is like a belief which I wish I could have made into a faith. I know like faith is like, not the right sort of thing to be talking about, but it's not in a religious sense, but it was kind of this sense of confidence that everything was going to be all right, that no matter how much suffering went on, or no matter what goes on, it was going to be all right, and that just to be good and to make things better and to make people better and to create and to not live a lie. Everything about it was totally and utterly positive. And it said to me that the meaning of life is simple. It's just fun. And I say this to people and they don't get it, and they don't get it. Fun. It can't be fun. It can't be fun. That's just too simple, man. And it's like, well, it is, man. I mean, yeah, right. We're at a point now. Right, we've got our food sorted, we've got our water sorted, we've got our energy sorted. Yeah, we've got all this stuff sorted, man. Well, we could be fighting in that. Well, I think a lot of people do want to have wars and fight people and that because they enjoy it. But for me, it's like, well, what is humanity? What are we unless we're curious and keen to discover what the universe has to offer us? Well, this is the best thing about our consciousness is like we can create stuff, we can invent stuff that's never existed before, we can imagine things in our mind and turn it into something, or we can put sounds together and put these sounds together, record these sounds, and let other people enjoy these sounds and have sex to these sounds. You know what I mean? It's like we could do whatever we want. We can, we could be so powerful. We're probably going to spread across the universe until we reach. And another analogy for you. I'm sorry if I'm going on a bit here, but another analogy was, what if we were the ultimate deity? What if we were godlike, right? What if we were the ultimate power in the universe? We knew everything, we could create everything, we had everything. Now, this is a very, very sort of basic analogy, I think, and rip it to bits, please do if you want, but if you had all that power and immense knowledge, there would be nothing to exist for. There'd be nothing to. So it's almost like a case of playing the game and having fun, by recreating ourselves as beings who don't know anything and have to teach ourselves back to godliness. But oh my God, I am getting spiritual now.
Yeah, what you just said then, for some reason, it appealed to me basically. And I think if I were in that position, I'd create artificial scarcity, like in a video game. So video games are artificial. And just any game in general, what you do is you create artificial scarcity and then you work towards it. So you get a video game and you cheat and you get the highest score. That doesn't mean anything to anyone. And that.
Yeah, man. Yep.
And I've often thought life, and again, it's getting spiritual and philosophical. It's not really predicated on much except intuition and kind of evidence that wouldn't stand up. If I told you why I think this, it wouldn't really mean much to you. It didn't mean much to me. But basically, I think life is the playground for the soul, kind of thing, or life's just a playground. And it upsets me that that playground is miserable for most people. And my playground is, changing the world, and that's my objective, really.
Yeah, man. But it sounds about the same as my objective.
Yeah.
I think, with the society we're in as well, some things hinder us. I tried getting into lucid dreaming, but you've got to regularly, in a morning, have these lucid dreams, write them down and concentrate on them, and then all through the day concentrate on checking to see that you're awake or asleep, to get into these lucid dreams. But then when you get these lucid dreams, you can do, like you said, try anything. You're almost godlike in the brain. The imagination is fucking unlimited. So I feel that I can't get to lucid dreaming because of society's restrictions on I've got to go to work to earn a wage.
Well, do you think maybe everything that's constructed around us is keeping us from? It's almost like we live in a really big grey box, and all the colours are on the outside.
Yeah.
Definitely, I agree with that. Definitely, I was going to say it's really hard for people to obtain happiness in this system, and that seems to me to be purposefully made that way. Stress and all your time taken up in jobs, and it's atrocious. It's insane.
Yeah, man. And I wonder why it's like that. Because I mean, you think to yourself, all these people who the people who've got all the money and all the power, right? Now, do they really not know about all this? I mean, is it really a case that we're actually ruled by the most ignorant people on the planet, or do they actually know all this? And is there some other reason why they won't allow humanity to be free and to be creative and to just exist? And what is it, man? Somebody tell me.
Yeah, that's the question.
Maybe they came from such a selfish upbringing, you know, like they just been brought up to believe that look after number one and look
Yeah.
after you and yours, and that's it.
I mean,
Everybody
like,
else fuck them.
let's face it, that the selfish gene has been very, very successful. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, the whole look after number one and kill or be killed, all this stuff. It on the face of it, I mean, we say we're really successful, but like it isn't successful as in like because the world isn't as good as it could be. But it seems to work for people, or I think they're that like people get in a mindset of well, this is the way it is, man. This is life, man. Like this is the way it is. It's, you know, it's suffering, it's pain, and you just gotta you just gotta you gotta be either a taker or a giver. You know, do you know what I mean? I think it is a culture thing, and I mean, you see I've seen a meme about the military and that today, I think it was, and it was like some U.S. Marine Corps sergeant or whatever, and the statement beside it was like, when you get back home and you see some anti-war protester comes up to you, you just smile and shake his hand and then wink at his girlfriend because his girlfriend knows that that her boyfriend's a pussy or something like that. Do you get where I'm coming from on that? Did I describe that properly?
Yeah, that sounded as ridiculous as every advert I watch on TV. Well, I used to watch on TV, but it's these things like TV and I don't know, even YouTube now started just having people. I seen a guy just dancing around in his pants, acting like a fucking idiot, like raving, and I don't know, somebody posted it on the Facebook page like that was funny, and I thought, what the fuck is funny? Like, it seems like nowadays it's fashionable to be fucking retarded.
Yeah, it is, mate. It is.
And then I watched QI with like Stephen Fry. There was Sean Locke, a Welsh guy, and this really clever guy who was talking about like wormholes and fucking quantum physics and all sorts of interesting stuff. And while he was talking, Sean Locke and the Welsh guy were like taking the piss out of him, looking bored. And I'm thinking, why are you mocking him? Like, this is interesting. Like, this is an intelligent guy. And then Stephen Fry came in and went, it's good to have somebody with your intelligence on who knows what they're talking about. And I was like glad for Stephen Fry to be there, like, but why is it like this? It fucking riles me up.
No, I mean,
it's a culture of the underachiever, isn't it? The culture of mediocrity.
I can't stand culture. Like, I mean, I go into college maybe twice a week now, and the bus ride there is just grueling for me. Like, looking at adverts and hearing people talk, and it just kills me on the inside. That's why I spend most of my time in my room. I can't associate with many people anymore because they all follow these insane values, and they'll enjoy thinking about themselves. They don't enjoy thinking or questioning anything. And no, I mean, okay, I'm sounding a bit aggressive here, but because it sounds like I'm blaming those people. But no, it's the construct of culture, and it's this, you know, it's these values and these thought processes that everyone just copies. And I mean, it's a good time to be alive in because it's exciting, because I'm living in like, you know, a time of immense change. You know, the protests are increasing, the world's going to change, the economy's going to collapse, it's going to be global social change. Whether it changes for the better or for the worse, I don't know. And it's exciting to be alive.
It is,
but
man.
It also
is exciting.
sucks in that I can't relate to many people. And
yeah, well, it's true. I mean, like I kind of learned to I don't know, like almost like learn to talk at other people's levels just to get by. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Because I've got friends from all kinds of walks of life and that, and a lot of people are all right, you know. A lot of people are fine, or just don't think about things, or they just want to enjoy their life as best they can and get through it and that. And then you get you get what we might call up in the north. Do you have chavs down? So, in fact, you're
Yeah.
northerners as well, aren't you? Kind of. You're not as
Yeah,
north
we
as
have
me, yeah.
chavs.
I mean, I mean, they get the brunt of the hatred and aggression, and yeah. I mean, like, they have that culture of the underachiever, you know, oh, you read books, do you? Oh, you're a swot, or you listen to alternative music, or you dress differently. That, oh, you're an idiot, whatever. But I don't really blame them. I don't
No.
blame the way they are, although it is completely understandable when you think to this degree about things, and you know that you're fairly well versed on the truths of life. Um, it is very, very difficult to deal with those kind of people,
Mm.
especially if they're not hearing you on your level and that. And the only way to really get through to them is to talk on their level to begin with.
Mm.
But I don't. If there's any blame to go around, which we can't blame anybody, because we've just like be the change you wanna be in the world and that. But I'd blame. I mean, the only people you can are the people who are in power, who sort of maintain
Mm.
the status quo, they maintain the culture of negativity or whatever, you know. But
Well, in my opinion, there's three main factors which contribute to that kind of behavior and culture, and that would be the education system, which I'm sure we could talk about for hours. There's a
yeah,
general culture, so the media and sports and things like that, which predicate values, and then there's the economy as well, which has a massive impact on people. So just generally how laden our system is with competition and scarcity and things like that, that changes a person immensely.
yeah,
So for me, the way I see it is they're the three main factors really that contribute to this kind of behavior. And
mm,
it's hard to remember that when you're in a situation when emotions take over and you kind of start thinking, I can't relate to anyone. And that's when I become emotional, less logical. But I think, if we're actually advocating change and if we're actually activists, then we need to, obviously have these solutions. And I think, I don't think anyone's mentioned it yet, and it's kind of like a really key point in this video, but in the resource-based economy, there would be no restriction on drugs. And that's important to note because people might be asking that. There would
yeah.
be no laws in a sense. There wouldn't be kind of
There
like
would,
an
yeah,
operation of power. Yeah.
it would just everybody would be kind of you'd rely and trust in
Mm.
everybody being aware of the way things are and educated to a point of not needing to do anything
Mm.
that's untoward towards others. But I think the legalization of drugs is on its way anyway. It's looking that way. Or with things happening in Colorado and I
Mm.
think Portugal have legalized drugs or decriminalized them at least.
Well,
Uh,
currently the only argument
Uruguay.
for marijuana being illegal is that it's illegal. Like the best argument I've seen is marijuana is illegal because it's illegal. It's just laughable.
it's what? It's illegal because it's illegal.
Yeah, like why is marijuana illegal? Oh, it's against the law. Oh, right. Yeah, I didn't see it that way. Yeah. No.
No, I think just generally an awareness of like any sort of health problems you can get from smoking is about the worst thing that you can the worst damage that you can get from it is probably by smoking it.
And that's the
And you can
tobacco
always,
anyway.
yeah. So it's coming. It'll have to happen.
Hmm.
We could have little drug schools. I get the toddlers in.
Mm.
Milkshakes laced with acid. We'll have like they'll get to like secondary school and there'll be little Einsteins and that. Some of them will have worked out how to levitate and that.
I think I mean my dreams. I don't need like acid or any other hallucinogenics. if I could just somehow stay in my dreams, because they are just fucking crazy. It's always wizards and dragons and fucking random things happening, like sharks that swim within air and attack me, and I don't know, like I have to rip things to bits or die in a sense. It's weird, it's really weird. But I love every dream that I have because of that random.
I think what I'd like to like to see again is probably an evolution from not even needing to take the drugs again. Whereas where like at certain points in an experience where you feel completely in tune with yourself and you're completely in tune with your environment and completely aware of everything going on. You know, your hearing seems a little bit more acute. Your vision, you're like that kind of sense of sort of super reality, if you like. I suppose like maybe some like martial artists, maybe Bruce Lee felt like that, completely in tune with himself, completely in tune with his body, feeling like totally alive, and then the perception of reality is always got that luster that makes it more pleasurable than what it is when you feel like gloomy and you're weighed down with the problems of the world, etc. It's hard to explain. I think even without taking drugs, you can step out on a different day to a similar kind of weather or whatever, and experience the world differently, experience the world as if everything feels as if it's a positive energy rather than negative. And if we can get everybody in the world feeling like that, whether it, you know, without using the need for drugs, but just for everybody to feel positive and like keen and motivated and just loving life and like being aware of the breeze on the back of your neck that makes you feel good, or noticing that the grass has got a luminescent green to it today. You know, little things like that. Just the overall experience of living and existing becomes ever more pleasurable and ever more worth living. If you know, because like I think a lot of people go out in the morning and just see a grey sky. I've known people that have taken them into the countryside and said, yeah, well, look at that, and there's a beautiful valley full of trees or whatever, and they've been like, it's just a bunch of trees. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, I know, but you know, smell that fresh air and you know, like, look at it, man, it's beautiful, it's lush. And a lot of people don't get it, or they don't appreciate the experience that they're having, which is life. And anyways, there's
Like
another
that
point.
scene from Trainspotting.
Oh, which one, man? Oh, when
That's
it
how
takes
I'm
him.
really get off the train.
Ah, right. He's like, yeah.
Wait
Life
with the mountains.
no amount of mountains and trees are gonna make life any better. Yeah,
But
man.
as well, like I've noticed since I did about 4 or 5 months without beer, weed, or cigs, and I noticed the time when I was working and doing beer, cigs, and weed, and I was always stressed out. I was always angry, and like the beer, the weed, and the cigs was supposed to cure it, but then like when I'd not got them, I was just angry and frustrated, or tired, or annoyed, and then like I did this time without all those, and like I did still get sad or angry or down a bit, like, but I found myself able to get back to baseline again a lot easier without the beer and the cigs and the weed. Like I'd feel shit, but then I'd think, well, why are you feeling shit? It's just something in your body, just fucking deal with it, sort of thing, and get back to normality. So I don't know.
Well, that's like
I don't know, like we could always be happy, just always. But like, I think it's easier to come back to baseline when you ain't got any pressures or you're not taking drugs all the time. You know what I mean? So
well, like
if we
addiction.
had a resource-based economy, sorry, go on.
Oh, you're right, man. It's like that's when like the addiction that's your crux. That's when it becomes about the drug and not about the benefit of it. As in, like,
Yeah.
you know, if you don't smoke, say you smoked 20 years ago and you don't smoke anymore, but then you have a traumatic event and you just have the one fag and it just you know, and that kind of does the trick for that moment. then that's. I mean, this is another crap analogy. I mean, analogies aren't very good tonight, John. Sorry about this. But like you have a cigarette and it's like, you feel it in your lungs. You go, fuck, that's better. Well, it hasn't made anything better, but I'm not. You're not going to smoke another cigarette because it did the job for that moment. Yeah. But if you're addicted and you keep going to the cigarette because you keep thinking that's going to bring you and it doesn't give you the benefit that you once did, it just becomes about maintaining the drug because your body gets used to having that drug and requiring that and then you have withdrawals if you don't have it. I think that's the point of it. When it becomes about the habit of consistently consuming some kind of chemical to maintain a state of mind, then it's not the answer anymore. It becomes the problem.
Yeah, well, when I talk about drugs as well, I split them into two categories. There's the kind of maybe, what's the word for it? Recreational ones and psychedelics and things, and then there's stuff like meth and heroin. And I class them as completely different drugs. I mean, obviously, like there's a lot of things drugs, like a food can be classed as a drug if you really want to call it that. But Gabardol he's a behaviorist. He studied for like a decade in some of the worst parts of America for drug problems on meth, and he said that every single person that he met who was addicted to meth, who had been basically locked up for a number of years because of their addiction, had suffered like massive traumatic events as children, and that upset me because these people are they're just children. He even said this. He said they're just children. They're just vulnerable and they're scared, and they like to get away from this place. They like to get away from their memories, and so they take these drugs, and that helps them escape. And he supports. It's not DMT. It's the tribal equivalent. It's something like
ayahuasca.
Yeah, ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca.
Yeah, he does like recreational camps for these addicts and anyone really. He said, and people go there and they take the drug and they trip out and they face the fears, and it helps them get over their addiction. And he said, if they do this and then they get into a different environment, it motivates them, and then it genuinely cures addiction. And to think that this ayahuasca is also a Class A drug itself, and can promote 30 years in prison, it's insane.
It is like bizarre. That is a total moment. It's like some of the things that we've made illegal. That's insane. Another thing to point out actually is different kinds of people sway towards different kinds of drugs. I've always noticed that there was always the upper type people and there was the psychedelic type people, like the people who are into coke and speed. They were it's a generalization here again, and I don't want to piss anybody off who might be listening to this at a later date, but I found with the people who are into cocaine and speed, they were kind of maybe more control freaks or more instant fixes. That not as deep in thinking about things. It was just because like the drugs like that it's just a moment of confidence and feeling good, but it doesn't seem to do anything cerebral, and then the other kind of people are into the more thinking men's drugs like LSD and magic mushrooms and the like. So I think it's a different kind of people that sort of will gravitate towards different kinds of drugs.
I kind of used them as a tool at one point. Like if I needed to get a job done, I'd use PET, and if I was going to a party, it was ecstasy. And then if it was just the normal day-to-day stuff, weed and beer.
Yeah, man. I mean, like it's not surprising that drugs are so popular amongst people. I mean, like the 90s and the rave scene and that, and MDMA, and like, it's a case of people loved it so much because it was how life should be. People they're all out dancing and enjoying themselves, and like everybody loves each other, everybody's friendly. It's no wonder it was so popular. No wonder people wanted to keep doing it. It's how life should be. Everybody should be like, getting on and having a good time and having fun and enjoying each other's company and all that. I mean, the downside of it is you could end up in bed in the morning with some really ugly girl and then like regret it. But I mean, that's not much of a downside really. But
Yeah, and it's something we can create as well. We can create that environment with,
yeah.
resource-based economy. I think we're getting pretty close to the end now. Like, we've gone over by about 10 minutes, so if you guys think it'd be a good place to stop, or if there's anything else you want to say, like in particular.
Not really, just enjoyed talking with you. It was my first podcast that I've ever done, so cheers for the invite and enjoyed talking about it.
I just want to get on to the intuition part that we wrote in the notes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I forgot where we even come into intuition, but like, my intuition seems to come from like when I learn something new, or see something inspirational, or hear something inspirational, or like have an emotional experience that kind of breeds my creativity. And going on to resource-based economy, I think it's going to take a certain amount of people to change the way they think, because I think, has anybody seen the Crossroads caterpillar butterfly analogy, where they talk about the caterpillar that's like, shows you the inside of a caterpillar, all cells, they've got the worker cells, that eventually the caterpillar's all full, there's no more jobs, there's no more food coming in, and like all the cells, they've got like loads of cells all panicking, like protesting, etc. And then like there's the imaginary cells that change what's dying into the butterfly. So like, I like that analogy because we need to start looking towards changing this society into that butterfly, because otherwise it's just gonna go to shit.
Yeah.
Well, we are, I think. I think we're just like what we're doing right now. Even this, it feels like we've got such a mountain to climb, but it is happening. If we're doing it, we know that other people are doing it. We know other people are thinking the same way. It's not just us. I mean, we're connected like via the internet and that. It's, I mean, even like I think the Bank of England have released a statement admitting that all money is debt, etc. Like Colorado's like legalized pot. There's all this like tension between US and Russia, etc., about the Ukraine and all that kind of thing. But I think it feels like we've got a mountain climb and there's a vast ocean of ignorance out there. But I do think things are getting better. I do think things are getting better.
I think things will get a lot worse.
I mean, I could be wrong.
I think things will get a lot worse first.
Yeah,
unemployment will be a big part of that. Like, was it Spain's
I know,
unemployment
but I
rate?
kind of think of that as getting better.
Yeah. No, I do as well.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Spain's unemployment
It's
rate.
getting worse to get better.
Right now it's 27%.
Yeah, there's something about that today, wasn't it?
And
27%. Yeah.
50% youth. So like half youth don't have jobs, and riots in the capital, things like that. And I've just realised as well, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I've just realised I have no idea how butterflies even do that, and how that would be an evolved trait, and that fascinates me. So I'm about to watch a documentary on butterflies. So thanks for that, Mick.
Excellent.
Like, how would that even be?
Cheers, Mick.
With my understanding of natural selection, that doesn't make any sense. How, a caterpillar can turn into a butterfly. I don't get it.
It kind of cocoons and then they rebuild it inside the cocoon and then pops out.
Just why would that be something that would be bred for in natural selection? Like, why would that be an evolved trait? How is that beneficial to the environment? I don't understand it.
How did the whole how did evolution come about anyway? What?
As far as I know, natural selection.
What drove a life?
Well, Graham Hancock says that we evolved because of psychedelics. So whether it's right, I don't know.
Like,
it wouldn't surprise me if like humans have evolved to like a vastly huge chasm of difference between us and the next species who are close to us in intelligence. I mean, the difference is so vast that it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if it was because of adaptability in our diet and looking to eat some mushrooms or whatever it was that kind of facilitated that change. You know, it wouldn't surprise me.
I know Terrance Mckenna definitely advocates that, and Joe Rogan as well, and a few others.
And Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's probably a good time for me to stop, lads. If you're
Yeah, I agree. It's
ready
good
to call it a night.
Yeah, it was good speaking to you, Troy and Mick.
Yeah,
Yeah, nice.
Thanks for having us on.
All right, cool. See you guys later.
No bother. Yeah,
And,
we'll speak later, man.
Thanks for listening as well.
Yeah, cheers, everyone. Get high.